All right, welcome back to another episode of Travel Ball Talk. I'm your host, Rich Prado, owner of Play in School. Today we're heading right back up to Chantilly, Virginia, to catch up with Eric Crozier. If you go back about 2 or 3 episodes, we caught up with one of his head coaches, Marcus Robinson, and I said on that call about 16 times, we got to get Eric on the call, on the call. So here we are. Coach Crozier, how you doing?
Hey, man, I'm great, man. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here, man. Thank you.
So I didn't say it in the intro, but Eric runs a absolutely beautiful facility called C5T Elite. That's in Chantilly. We're going to probably talk about the facility quite a bit, and the team side of the business is XPress Baseball. And after you finish listening to this episode, you can go back and listen to one of his head coaches, Marcus Robinson, who was on the call literally just a few episodes back. Eric, when did we first meet? This was, do you remember? We were on a field. You had 2 teams. We came up and we went through this a little bit with Marcus, but this was this a Rawlings team that we were connected on? Do you remember off the top of your head?
I think we actually met, prior to that when I was with the Stars. I do remember us having a conversation then.
For sure.
I was with the Stars organization for 4 years and, had a team that I started at age 13 and saw those boys until they were age 16 before we kind of made a switch to go off on our own. But definitely, I think that's when our paths crossed, when I was with the Stars.
So those of you guys aren't from Northern Virginia or from the Virginia or Mid-Atlantic. The Stars are, a really successful club up in Northern Virginia. And so I think it's safe to say that their family tree extends into a lot of other clubs. A lot of people have had success there and gone off, and they've had like little Stars babies and moved on and done other stuff. So
good way to look at it.
Yeah, so I mean that's like a really cool thing. I think when the bird can leave the nest, if you will. So take us through that progression. And I did the same thing with Marcus a little bit. I think it's cool to hear the history. And you have been almost like a staple in the Northern Virginia area for, a decade plus at this point. And have had your fingers in a handful of different teams, facilities, camp businesses. Will you give the sort of the quick history and then definitely just catch us up to what's going on today in your world?
Definitely. I think, when I first came into the area and decided to retire, I played 11 years and, just kind of the grind just got a little tired of it, man. And sometimes it happens. You don't necessarily lose the love. You just, kind of want to see if there are some other things that you should be doing. And, I got into coaching, which I never thought I would. My mentor, rest in peace, Stephen Gusler was everything to me. And he told me I was going to coach someday, and I told him absolutely not, because we used to drive him crazy. We drove him crazy. So I was like, man, no way I'm going to go through what you're going through. But he was the perfect guy, for me. And I wear him on my hat every day. So, when I started coaching, I had a team in the Stars organization that I'd say were a group of guys who were grinders. They may not have been the most talented of all the kids in Northern Virginia, but they had gigantic hearts and they played the game, the right way and wanted to learn every day, man. So, we went out and grinded, and it was a great, great, great experience for myself because anytime you have a chance to, get kids that, may not be looked as the best, to almost go out and exceed expectations and play hard. And all of those guys went on to play college baseball, and it's crazy to not be considered one of the top tier Stars teams, but yet you find your own success. And I love those guys. Those guys are awesome. And, I always tell their story every chance I get. And then from that group, I went on and I got a chance to manage, a 13U group who were rock stars. I mean, for lack of better words, a lot of these kids went on and played Division One. They were impactful, on their varsity teams as freshmen. And I think, we ended up breaking a Stars record in wins. I think we went 72-5 or something one summer. And they were a group that, were stars in their own little league and, actually felt like a scout, going out and recruiting these kids. And Johnny Coons, who's a huge, baseball presence, in this area, actually helped me assemble that team, so I always will give him credit for the measures and the steps that were taken to build it. And, from that group, it just kind of just started something, man. We were a team that people wanted to be a part of. We were fully sponsored. I mean, it was a lot of awesome things that I wish I had, as a kid, but to just be the manager and the coach of that group was pretty special. And we always would go to Carson Carroll's practices because he had the 17U group. And, I wanted my guys to see, how baseball was played at the older levels and give them something to aspire to be. And, even Stars inner squads were like crazy back then because they just had they had a lot of talent, throughout the organization. So it was pretty cool. And that's a standard that, we held ourselves to year after year and being, the top squad. So it wasn't something that just happened. It was a lot of work that was put into it.
And after you left the Stars and you ended up taking your crew and you started another club or hooked on with another club. What was that club?
So that was Rawlings C5T Elite. So, Coach Robinson, who had his organization Sandlot, that he ran with Dorian Bowers and some other great guys, they made a switch, to Rawlings. And I think what, we all aspire for sometimes is to see, if there's something or some way that you can grow. And, sometimes, you want to feel that growth on your own. And that's what I felt like. I said I had been underneath the wing of a great organization and so thankful for that opportunity, but I think it was a time that, you wanted to feel that growth on your own. So, we started, Rawlings C5T Elite, we got with Sean Lomas, out of South Carolina. And, Sean, another great guy, I've been really fortunate to meet, great people throughout this process. And, Coach Robinson, we spoke, then he introduced us to Sean, then we all spoke, and we kind of had our own entities, but we were under the same Rawlings umbrella. And so we did that for a couple of years. And, it was a great experience. We got a chance to go down to South Carolina. We had like a Rawlings weekend with all the teams kind of in one area. And, crazy as it is, Marcus and Dorian have been doing it so long that they kind of were like, man, we're a little tired of this, man. So they kind of dumped 9 teams in our direction. And, at that time I was partnered with Leonard Stevens, who does Perfect Performance. And so we took on this 9-team, explosion. And I'll never forget the night that we had all of the parents, come in to meet us. They were looking at us like, who are these guys? Because they had been, accustomed to, one voice, for some time. So a little uncomfortable, because the transition had to happen pretty quickly. So you really didn't get a chance to, allow people to see, kind of how you do things, why you do things. They come in with an expectation. You come in with trying to get the transition to be smooth. So some of the squads, it was a really smooth transition. Others, there wasn't. And the only reason why I feel like there wasn't is just because of the initial, meet and greet was kind of rushed. It didn't happen, as organic as you may have wanted it to. But I think it still worked out in the end with the results of, players getting the things accomplished that they wanted to. So that was pretty cool, just to kind of go from one squad that you focused on to now you're responsible for, 9 that you have to, make sure that they have the right coach, make sure they're getting the right attention, they're signed up for the right events, they're training in the off season. So yeah, it was pretty cool.
You mentioned two names, and if somebody's listening, and if somebody goes back and listens to the episode with Marcus, you're going to hear these names repeated over and over and over again. You mentioned Marcus, you mentioned Dorian, and these are guys who seem to be in your life a lot. And it sounds like at one point they were like, hey, we're good. We're in a different season of our life, which we all go through, right? Whether it's professionally, personally, people have kids, people get busy with work. And so at that point in time, Marcus and Dorian are like, hey, here's the baton on these 9 teams. And you took that baton and carried on. But as life happens, as seasons change, it sounds like if I've been paying attention, both of these guys are back in your life now, aren't they?
100%, and, Coach Robinson, I look at him like a brother. He's a little bit older than I am. He's been in this Northern Virginia spectrum, a lot longer than I am. He grew up in it, right? So a lot of the things that go on and have gone on over the years, he's been very knowledgeable about that, very helpful about that. And we've had some real conversations, and we don't always agree. So that's why I call us brothers, because we can bump heads like brothers just as easily as we can love on one another. And I just think he's just a great person. And Dorian Bowers, man, we had a professional respect for, whenever we would cross one another on the field. And, Dorian is one of the, he needs to get a lot more credit than what he does in this area for being one of the phenomenal teachers of the game. His path at Chantilly, he got a chance to work with a lot of the high school guys, and he was a part of getting those guys who had that phenomenal state run. He had a hand in some of that, and I just don't think he gets enough credit for it. And he's back in the mix now. He's on my staff at Potomac, and let me tell you, man, I think he's a big reason why we've had a lot of success this year, because he brings positivity. He always says the right things. And I think even when you have, moments when, say we just take a tough loss, right? And I'm upset, because I think it was from a lack of focus and execution. He, even in those moments, he just says the right things, man. So I am blessed to have Dorian back in the mix with us this year.
If you caught that, that's Potomac. We hit before we hit record. So Coach Crozier coaches at a really high end private school right there in, I believe that, if I'm not mistaken, that's Falls Church, Virginia. Is that right? Falls Church?
A little bit down the street, McLean.
Golly, I missed it by a couple miles. But this is I mean, there's no other way to describe it. This is an elite private school right there in spitting distance to the nation's capital, and they just happen to be in a league that is an absolute dogfight. One of the toughest private school leagues, around. So having a right hand man that can come up with the right words for you when when the cat has your tongue is a good thing, or when you're feeling one way, he can counterbalance you, man. That's always a blessing.
It is, and I think I came into this season with a certain mindset, and some people think, why does this guy look like he's angry, or why does he look like he's bothered? And it's neither of the two. It's just a focus. And Coach Bowers is one of those guys who every day says, "Man, you okay? You good?" And I'm like, "I'm great. I'm great, man. I'm great." And he's just, like I said, he's just a very positive individual to be around.
Now, one of the things I have always just been in awe about with regards to you is the facilities that you've just been fortunate enough to be a part of. The last one was awesome, and I loved it. It was the one that was next door to the Tesla spot.
Yes.
That was awesome. And just to paint a picture, very simple. Just gritty, a gritty weight room on one side, and through the door, an enormous open space with turf, cage. Just you could just about long toss in there. But that's a few years gone now, and you have opened up a new facility in Chantilly, and it is beautiful. Besides just being just aesthetically incredible, it is one of the things I like about it is it's not just a baseball only. The only thing we can think about here is baseball. It is, I would say, there is a diverse portfolio, if you will, of things to do in there. You want to talk about that just a little bit? Talk about the facility, the space, the offerings that you're providing the community.
Sure thing, man. And like you said, the facility that was a part of for 5 years, her performance was gorgeous. Tyson's Playground, definitely gorgeous, and was a great experience. And being there and just learning the day-to-day of different things, going through the trials and errors, going through the high times and, times that you wish were better. And I think it grooms you for, the things that come in your life. And I just think that, one of the unfortunate things that happened in that situation was COVID, and that was something that was just totally, out of anyone's control. And so, it was really sad just to see that have to go during that time, because it was definitely a place you enjoy going to every day, and the kids' lives that you were able to impact, in that area, as well as from outside of the area, huge Maryland presidents, just being right by the highway, guys would come on in from, different, places throughout the area. So it was definitely cool. But, just switching gears to, coming to, C5T Elite Sports Training, lack of better words, it's a dream come true. I think when I was a kid, I always wanted to be an architect. That's what I went to school for. And, was really, good with a pen and paper as far as drawing. And, I drew something, I think when I was 12 years old, maybe 13. And, I called it the Ultimate Sports Zone. And it had like 2 levels of, sports, different things, football field, swimming pool, basketball court, and that's just a kid that's, dreaming. So, for a portion of that, why it might not be the Ultimate Sports Zone with the swimming pool and other things in it. It's almost like I drew the St. James before the St. James became one. So credit to them, for bringing that to life.
Describe what's the St. James real quick.
So St. James is like a 450 square foot facility, 450,000, square foot facility in Springfield that has pretty much everything you can think of. So it's like, that's amazing, but to have your own vision, here in Chantilly that, you walk into every day and it's just like, wow, and I think, I was just talking to some of my athletes, yesterday. I have, a guy right now who's in the transfer portal who's looking for a new home. I have another guy who's, getting ready to start his pro career. And, we're just talking about, what makes this place, special to them. And, they come in the door, it's either greeted with a smile followed by trash talk, followed by, because, I think it's always an atmosphere where we challenge each other, from a staff perspective, from, athlete to athlete, from staff to athlete, from athlete to staff. These guys all feel like they can outdo me in anything, but, I prove them wrong, a lot of those instances, man. But it's really surreal to just, have a place that, is in a community now, which my kids are participating in the different sports. So I've gotten a chance to, get closer to some of the different leagues and the different sports. and really just to help out and be a staple, man. So it's pretty cool. You know, we offer, of course, our baseball and softball, you know, are one or two of our biggest offers. But, you know, we had signed a deal with Capstone Performance to do our performance training. And that was due to a relationship that was developed a couple years ago with KJ, Kevin Nadeau. And he was also at Perfect Performance, you know, with myself. And, you know, we just saw something that could work. You know, sometimes people and personalities just mix and match. And this was one of them that did. And so KJ and I talk every day about different things. He has a general love and passion for the development side of what he does. And we're able to work together, you know, because of that. And one thing that you'll always find out when you talk to different people in this area about coaching and development is, you know, everybody has an ego of wanting to be the best, as they should, you know, because why else would you do it? Mm-hmm. But, you know, it's pretty cool when two of those egos can mix and mesh and come out with something that's really positive, man. And, you know, I'm so happy that that's something that was able to happen because I definitely think we help one another. We also have, you know, yoga. And, you know, I think mind and body is something that I think more athletes need to get in. You know, people think about yoga and they automatically, you know, associate it to, you know, something that doesn't deal with athletes, man. It's like, you know, oh, that's more for the everyday working person to come and get a load of a stressful day, you know, whether it's male or female. And it's just not true, man. As somebody who's, you know, done these yoga classes himself, challenging. You know, I remember the first one I did, I was like, man, we don't have no water break in here. You know, it's like, don't they have like a little 2-3 minute water? It was just like a steady, you know, hour-long flow. And, you know, you really just kind of get in touch with just kind of releasing, you know, maybe some things they're bothering you. And as a business owner, you always have something that's bothering you, right? You know, either you don't feel like you're somewhere or you want to get to the next level. You know, it's a day-to-day thing, you know. So I think the yoga has been awesome, and we're trying to get different programs now to make and force our athletes to kind of take advantage of them, be a part of them, so that they can, you know, grow in different ways. And then we have wrestling. You know, build a wrestling room, and people say, why did you build a wrestling room? Well, you know, when I looked at the area and the different things that are going on, I didn't see like a dedicated space for just wrestling. Now, don't get me wrong, they have wrestling rooms in every high school because it's a huge sport. And then there was a magnificent place in Sterling called Top of the Podium. And, you know, I studied their website. I was like, man, this place is awesome. So while, you know, I didn't want to duplicate, you know, what they had, I thought having an offering of wrestling was something that would just, again, allow you to service the community in various ways.
This is, man, you just make me so happy when I hear these things. You know, the wrestling thing is so unique, but you're running this business, and it's so easy for, you know, us baseball geeks to like stay tunnel visioned on baseball. But the reality is like there's so many different things you can do within your four walls to provide value for the people in your area that they will, in turn, pay you for. And that allows you to turn around and provide more value for the people in your community. It's a pretty good relationship, you know, and great for the people who can run a one-dimensional baseball business. But man, I think it just tickles me when I hear things like, you know, the yoga going on in one corner, the strength and conditioning going on in another corner. There's a baseball lesson going on back in the cage. There's a softball pitcher taking a lesson over here, and then there's a wrestling practice going on over here. It's bonkers to me. I mean, I think that's amazing. One thing I want to be careful I don't throw you under the bus here. Didn't you I think I've been to your facility twice now in the last couple of years. Didn't you also have sort of like a homework area or like a space with some desks or something?
Yeah, we did. So, there was a hallway of 4, vacant offices, and, was thinking about, what can we do in this? So I had, one of the things that's a gift and a curse with myself, I can openly admit, is I think I can do everything, and sometimes, you get humbled in that aspect, but it doesn't stop you from, thinking of ways to be creative. So I thought, like, man, we can have an after school program in here to where we have the kids, bus here, we have rooms for them to have snack, almost like a SAC program, right? Mm-hmm. So, looked into, getting something like that. And then, for their activity, they can be on the turf doing the different sports, having that release from a long day, But when you talk about, bringing kids into a facility, there's so much more that goes into that. You have to change the structure of your design because you have to have, walls with a door that locks, right? You can't have just an open space where people can just walk in when you have kids, in the building. So, yeah, kind of made me hit the pause.
Yeah, no, I hear that. I'm thinking about right now the gym I go to. It's a they've got the kid zone, which is cool. Like I can drop off my 7-year-old there while I go get about a 4 to 6 minute workout, and then I come back and he's been cared for. It's kind of like a little, like a short-term daycare situation. But this gym also has an after school, like a full-on after-school situation where they get what you just described. That's a separate part of the building with a separate staff. But then this is the part that kills me. There's a middle school that's walking distance, and these middle schoolers will walk over, and they're just completely unaccompanied. They're not in the after-school program. They're not in the kid zone area. They're just there, and it's probably the if I had to just make one complaint about this gym, we love it. It's amazing. It's like a country club, right? It's they got the pool situation. This place has indoor pools, outdoor pools, but then you get these unaccompanied teenagers, and I'm like, my God, what are these people doing? There's like 100 different ways that they could hurt themselves, kill themselves, hurt somebody else, kill somebody else. Like this is a really big liability. And in your, I'm thinking in your space too. Like you can't just let kids roam around. It's just like there's, thousands of pounds of weights that anybody can hurt themselves on, and not to mention some kid with 100-mile-an-hour exit velo taking swings off the tee, and some, 6-year-olds have really bad spatial awareness. I don't know if you ever noticed that. Like, if you let a kid, a 6-year-old, take a walk across the playground, he's going to get wiped out by the kid on the swings. Imagine that kid walking through a facility while somebody's taking BP. Forget it. Crazy. So anyway, I remember you were talking about that. I didn't know which direction you went, but that's okay. Probably for the better. I always wonder, you've got the baseball, softball, you got the wrestling, you got the yoga. And I ask people, I've probably asked this question to, the last several episodes I've had. Why do you think a lot of these teams aren't, once you get good at running the travel baseball side of things, and we can talk about XPress next. I definitely want to talk about XPress. Like you get good, like the on-field part, you hire good coaches, and that part sort of takes care of itself. The off-the-field part, the administrative part, it seems like that piece would lend itself to being, like, once you figure that out, well, you can do that for travel softball. You could do that for a wrestling team. You could do that for a basketball team, a soccer team. Like, why aren't more baseball travel teams instead of adding more of those teams, why aren't they adding more different sports? Like I don't know if your wrestling program has teams. I don't really know how that works. I'm not a wrestling guy, but like why do you think we're not seeing the the stars of the world, for an example? How come they're not adding softball? What do you think about that?
Man, I'm going to say a phrase that I have to tell myself sometimes, and I think it's one that people should really listen to. But sometimes you just got to stay in your lane. I think when you get outside of your lane and trying to duplicate things because it worked for one side versus it's got to work for the other, that's difficult, man. And the hardest part about it is you got to have guys, gals, people who understand those different sides, that are a part of your organization. You do that. That's the magic key, is getting, people who specialize, who understand, who can go out and find other people, to help them run those different divisions. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why you don't see it, is because getting that conglomerate of people together is difficult.
Yeah.
And it's difficult because they'll say, well, I'm already doing this. Why do I need to come over and do it with you? And so again, that's when we talk about the egos, right?
Yeah.
The egos have to blend, and you guys have to say, well, if we get together, maybe we can, take what you're doing and then, maybe look at getting to this height. Mm-hmm. And that is almost the conversation that has to become enticing to them, for them to do so. And, I'll be honest with you, there's a history behind the name why it's called XPress Baseball, and XPress was, a team that I played on when I was, a youth growing up in Columbus, Ohio. And, Troy Manier, who is our West Coast director, his father coached us, and here we are. We've had this relationship that has grown since we were 8 years old until now. And I said, Troy, man, why don't we honor your father by bringing XPress back?
That's cool.
Because he had an organization that he was running and still is running out on the West Coast. And I'm like, we got you out here, myself here, mixed with Coach Robinson. We have a gentleman in New Jersey by the name of Charlotte Bulow, who is, he is a huge baseball guy, and he's got things going on overseas and Aruba, Curacao. So it's like we have all these different awesome people from different walks of life, but we have one common thing. We have a genuine love and passion for the game that we've played, and we have a genuine love and passion for helping players get to their next level. And, over the years, even back it up to DBAT, when I was with DBAT, and, Coach Robinson, I give a lot of credit to for that opportunity, because he was like, you need to go to ABCA and get yourself aligned with a big organization. And I was like, what? What's ABCA? So, ABCA has been a blessing. Coach Brownlee and I have an amazing relationship. Coach Hani, who introduced me to Coach Brownlee. I mean, just the relationships that baseball has, brought to me, I'm just thankful for. And that's why you see me always talk in a manner that is just humble, man, because I haven't gotten here by just being me.
Yeah.
I've gotten here because I have people who saw something, maybe I didn't see, pushed me a little harder, but in the process have taught me to, respect the game, respect people, and don't waste any opportunities. So, it's just all been, great. Sometimes it's overwhelming, but, from that, DBAT really helped me understand what a national thing looks like. DBAT's this huge, successful organization based out of Texas. They've done a great job in building that, but they built the facility first, so they built the facility first, then decided to build, organization of teams on the other side. And, when I got aligned with them, Corey Press, we met in ABCA, I told him where I was, we kind of spoke a little bit about a vision. And he says, you know what, I'm going to talk to the guys, Cal at headquarters and see if it's something where you can run the East Coast, bring DBAT from Texas to the East Coast. And so it happened, they kind of made me the East Coast director. And I was like, whoa, I didn't even get a concept of what that meant, as far as, having the ability to start a DBAT team wherever you want it on the East Coast. And now we talk about, again, going from one team to 9 teams. Now you go from one area to an entire coast. And so all of these experiences have led to now, and, learning from the good, learning from the bad. And, through all of that, we're looking at over 300 kids placed in college, man. So this is like, wow. This is sometimes when you really sit back and look at it, it all makes you just say, wow.
What's cool? Yeah, no doubt. Wow. What's cool? One thing I like about the way you've got XPress set up, and if you go to the c5telite.com website and you click on XPress Baseball, you're in Northern Virginia. You got Troy Manier out on the West Coast. Marcus is now relocated to Florida. And then you got Coach Bulow up in the Northeast. So it's almost like you got 4 different sets of eyes looking at different players in different pockets of the country. And I know you're from Ohio. You got connections there, connections all over the place. But it's kind of cool that you're essentially 4 bird dogs working 4 different territories. I dig it. Is that are you finding that like the teams are being created, with an emphasis on each area?
It kind of depends. There's been different times where we've had more players from one area versus the other. Like the team that Coach Robinson had this past summer, half the team was from, Bakersfield, California. The other half was from right here in Northern Virginia. And it turned out to be such a great mesh of guys, and they went out, they accomplished some really great things. And, now this year I have a 17U squad where half the team is from California. The other half is from, this area and some others. And I've always loved the national team, and it's for many reasons, right? I know the word national, elite, all of that gets thrown around throughout travel baseball. I get it. But what I like about the word national is you're bringing together different personalities with a short period of time to get these guys to play together. And one of the things that we've always done is we get to our tournament sites a day or two early, and we have practice together, and we get all of, hey, my name is so-and-so, my name is so-and-so. We get all that out of the way on day one. And my message to these guys is always the same. You all are trying to accomplish the same thing. So take this opportunity to do that with somebody who you've never done that with before. And it's really cool to see these guys go on and develop relationships of their own, and to where they're keeping in touch with Twitter, Instagram, text message. They're following one another's careers throughout, their high school journeys, the other travel team that they might play on or whatnot, or guest play. And some phenomenal friendships have been created through that, man. So that's one of the reasons why I always like the word national. Even when I was with the Stars, I really wanted to, do that with them. And, that just wasn't the vision at the time. And they had a vision for what they wanted, and they've been very successful at that. So, I think at the same breath, though, I kind of get a little upset, and it's my own fault, because I think when it comes to, what we're doing within these organizations is giving kids a chance to play at a higher level. I think we've done, and at just about every stop that I've been, we've done just as much as any other organization. But just because, my guys might not come from home base, it doesn't get looked at the same. And, at the end of the day, Rich, I care less because, this isn't my career. My career is over. I was fortunate to do the things that I've done. So it's never been about myself. It's always about the kids. But in the same breath, it's a little frustrating because from an organization standpoint, I think our organization is just as good as any other, especially when it comes to that. And I think we all, just need to understand that it takes a village, with some of these kids. And I think the more and more that these coaches, we learn to work together more than see each other as adversaries or, the ego of, oh, no, I got this kid or I got that kid. I mean, Northern Virginia is so talented when it comes to baseball, man. We got some players that can go.
No doubt.
And, sometimes I think the travel programs clash when they could actually work together, and I'll give a gentleman, some credit who probably doesn't need any because he's a phenomenal coach, and that's Pudge over at Madison. My 2023 shortstop, Kelly Crittenberger is going to Northwestern in the fall, and Pudge had a big part in that. And the fact that, two guys have a genuine love for the same kid and can work together to help that guy get to a place to where he extends his career and play some Power 5 baseball, man. I just think there's more stories like that can be told.
If those you guys who are wondering if this is your first time tuning in, Pudge Gorman is who he's referencing. He's the head coach over at Madison. He's a high school baseball Hall of Famer and runs a really nice travel ball club, runs a nice facility, and not too far down the street from Coach Crozier. We had him on the podcast not long ago. If you want to go to playinschool.com/Gorman. Jorman, that's GJORMAND. Pudge is kind of a legend. You're probably not the first time you've heard the word Pudge, but he's a legend up there. He's a legend across the country, to be honest with you. But sure, that's a pretty good person to reference there as far as people that get it. I mean, that's why he's one of the best, is because he gets it. Coach, man, this time has flown. I'm looking at the clock. I know you've got an intern coming in that you need to get prepped for the day. So what I would say is, if you have any, final parting shots, last messages for any coaches, parents, players that might be listening, maybe do that, and then we'll wrap up.
Yeah, man. I just we'll just talk about, kind of the message that I relate to the guys that I'm fortunate to coach with every day is don't waste any opportunities. There are very few great ones that come along in life. So when you have them, you got to take advantage of them. And, I also do a showcase. I always got to talk about my showcase. It's in Washington, Pennsylvania at W&J College. As well as the Washington Wild Things, which is a independent ball field. They kind of neighbor one another. Mm-hmm. And this is a showcase that's grown every year. And, it's, there's a lot of different events these kids get, information on, week after week, day after day, especially once they hit the showcase circuit. But I really feel like, this event is one where, it's really organic, man. It gives the players up and close feel that they might not get in other places. And the coaches that have come out every year, man, they've made the event even more special. I've always seemed to really get great people. There's a lot of head coaches that attend, and you're talking about 20 to 30 Division I schools, and some of those schools, the head coach is there, and the head coach is a person who, he doesn't really attend a whole lot of showcases, man, because he's got a whole lot of things that he has to get done in order for his program to be successful. So I think it's great. This year is August 11th through the 13th.
I can attest to it. I've been there, done that. And I mean, you didn't even do it justice. This is a beautiful college stadium, literally next door to a beautiful professional stadium. And it's like, what a cool setup, man. It's like one of the best setups out there for a camp scenario or showcase scenario. It's awesome. You've done a good job with that.
Well, this year, the last couple of years, I have been able to, have a lot of different partnerships throughout this, travel ball showcase spectrum, but Prospect Select is covering our event for a second year in a row. And they did a great job last year. They took a lot of the social media presence and placed it on their own site. They're going to be doing that again. I just love working with those guys. I have a great relationship with them. We do all their events. They do phenomenal events. The Black Bear, to mention, is one that,
absolutely.
A lot of different organizations attend. So definitely, those uncommitted guys, 24, 25, 26, who are looking for an opportunity to get the exposure of being in front of college coaches. It's definitely a great event for them.
Eric, this has been awesome, man. I appreciate you coming on. We are right up to your deadline, your hard stop. So you, don't hang up. Let me hang up. Let me stop the recording. Don't hang up, and I'll keep you just one more second, man. Thanks a lot again.
Okay. Awesome, man. Well, you didn't even ask me